Hello everybody and welcome back to another Unreal Engine 4 video. In this video we are going to continue a bit on what we did previously, and we are going to add blood splatter effects and some blood decals on the floor if we hit a physical material named flesh. So for this I'm going to have to give most credit to DeanAshford. You should definitely go and check out his channel. It's a great UE4 channel with a lot of cool tutorials, and I got the blood splatter tutorial from his channel. So I'll drop the link in the description from this video and you should definitely go and check it out. Okay, let's get started right away. For this we need a blood splatter texture, so we have something to use for our images. For this, the same rule applies as for our bullet holes texture we used in the previous video. So you could Google some of this and you can try and look for an image something like this. Make sure you can divide it into equal sections and each of the blood splatters is in its own square. And also make sure it's a power of 2 image. If you check out the tutorial in the description, DeanAshford also has an image in his description for that video, and I'll be using that image. It looks like this, and you can divide it into 4 by 4 equal sections, so 16 different squares, all of the same size, and each of the splatters is inside of its own square. So make sure you have a proper image for this. And we are going to create a few folders. So first I'm going to create a blood splatter folder, and in there I'm going to create 3 new folders as well: textures, materials, and particles. First let's import our texture, so open the texture folder and simply drag in the image you got, and that should be good to go. Next we are going to create a material, so go to the materials folder, create a new material, and I'm going to call this a blood splatter material. And open this up. First thing we want to do is set the blend mode over here to translucent, and if we scroll down over here to the usage flags, make sure you set the used with particle sprites and enable that flag. Now for the material we want to use a particle color node, so look for particle color, constant particle color, select that one. The first pin we are going to plug it into the base color, and for the last pin drag off here and look for a multiply node. The result for the multiply node goes into the opacity channel over here. And for the B pin we are going to look for a particle sub UV node, so drag off here and look for particle sub UV, particle sub UV node, so particles, and then select this one. And over here in the details panel simply select your blood splatters texture like this, and we should be good to go with this material, so we can save it and close it down. Once it's done saving, come on, thank you. And the next thing, we are going to duplicate one of our bullet hole decals materials, so go to the bullet hole materials folder and duplicate one of them, Ctrl W. I'm going to call this blood splatters decal material. Move this over to the blood splatters material folder, and let's open it up. Now in here we can simply replace the texture in the texture object node, so select our blood splatters, and for the color make sure you turn it into a reddish blood color like this, and we should be good to go over here as well, so we can save this. Now we are going to create a particle system, so go to the particles folder, right click and create a new particle system. Let's call this blood splatters. And let's open it up. Now we are going to work our way down the list over here, so first select the required node, and over here for the material, select our Bloodsplatters material we created. And next thing, look for the duration settings over here. And for the emitter loops, we are going to set this to 1. And scroll down a bit further till you see the sub UV settings, and you want to set the interpolation method to random. And next you want to enter the size of the image you use basically, so for me that's 4 by 4. Again, if you open this texture, you can imaginary divide it into 4 by 4 rows, so that's what you're telling over here. Next go to the spawn, and we want to set the rate distribution constant over here to 0. And scroll down a little bit to the burst list array, and we want to add one array element over here. Expand this and set the count to 1. Leave the count low to -1 and the time to 0, that's fine. And the next thing we want to do over here is add an event generator. So right click and look for event and select the event generator. Select it over here, and we want to add one array element. Expand this, and we want to set the type over here to collision. And you should probably rename this, so name the custom name something like Bloodsplatter, and that should be good to go as well. Next, for the lifetime, make sure you expand this and set both of the values to 0, so minimum and maximum, turn them into 0. After that, go to the initial size, and we can mess around with this a little bit later, but something to start out with could be something like a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 30 maybe. So that's simply the size of the decals we are spawning, or the Bloodsplatter sprites, sorry, not the decals. Next, go to the initial velocity node and set the start velocities. Again, we can change this later, it's just something we have to work with, so make it something like 80, 80, 125, and for minimum go with 40, 40, 65. So that's the velocity of our blood splatters. Go to the color over life over here, expand color over life, and for the distribution select distribution vector constant, and then you can simply set the color over here to your blood type color, and we are good to go over here as well. Now we need to add a few nodes, so right click and look for a sub UV and then select the sub image index. Select this one, and for the sub image index you want to make sure you expand this all the way. For the one pin over here, expand it as well and set the out value to 11. So again, this refers to our image. We can select image 0 up to 11, so we have 12 different images and we are not using the bottom row. So make sure you set the out value for the one pin to 11 and leave the rest of them as they were. Next thing, add an acceleration, constant acceleration node. Select this one, and again this is something you can adjust, but let's start out with something like -600, so that's the acceleration of our blood splatters. And the last thing we need to add over here is an actor collision, so look for the collision and select the actor collision over here. If you select this one and you scroll down a bit, you can set the maximum collision distance. So right now it's set to 1000 units. If we are further away than this, we won't get a notify if this particle collides and nothing will happen. So we might want to crank it up a little bit right now, and you can adjust this later. It's performance related as well, obviously, so do what you want to over here, but I'm going to increase it a little bit and set it to 2000. We can save and close our blood splatters particle system right now. And let's continue with adding a new physical surface. So go to the project settings, and under the engine look for the physics. Scroll down, and we are going to add our new flash physical surface over here. Oh, flash with an E. So that's flash, something like this. And close this down. And we also need to create the actual physical material for this. So go to the physical materials folder, duplicate one of these, and rename it. Physical material flash. And if you open this up, you probably won't be able to set this right away. Sometimes it doesn't update, sometimes it does. If it doesn't, just go back to your project settings and mess around in here a little bit. Press enter again, maybe click around a few times, close it down, and if you open it up again, as you can see right now, you can select it all of a sudden. So set this to our new surface type flash, save and close this down. And we want to go to our character blueprint right away. So go to the blueprints character folder and open your base character. First thing we want to do in here is go to our get impact fx function. We are going to delete the switch on ePhysical surface node, and if we get a new one for this, so switch on ePhysical surface, you will see our new flash surface type is now added to the node, so it's updated. Let's connect up the old pins again, so the default, the concrete impact effects and the metal impact effects. And for our new flash, we are going to spawn our new Bloodsplatter impact effects. So select the Bloodsplatter particle system and connect it to the flash node, flash pin over here. And we are also going to edit our get impact decal function. So open this one up and again get a new node for the switch on ePhysical surface. Switch on ePhysical surface. And make sure you connect up the pins again the way they were. And for our new flash surface, we are not going to return a decal at this point. I haven't really figured out how to properly spawn a decal on a character, so I'm not going to bother with it right now. I'm going to set this to none and leave it empty. And we are going to check for an empty result later and make sure nothing happens. So set this to none, return the flash type. Let's compile this and go to our event graph to the multicast events for the impact effects. So over here we are going to make a few changes. First of all, let's disconnect our spawn emitter at location over here and move over the decal stuff a little bit. So we have a bit of room in between here. And we are going to drag off the return value for the spawn emitter at location, and we are going to say bind event to on particle collide. Bind event to on particle collide, and select this one. So what this does is each time one of our particles we spawned in our particle system collides, it's going to fire this event. So we are going to spawn a blood decal from this one. First connect up the branch to the old one, to the spawn emitter at location. From here we are going to continue with getting our impact decal, so drag this over and connect it up. Disconnect it on the other side, and we want to add a branch in here to make sure we are not spawning empty decals. So connect up the execution pin from the decal material over here, drag off and look for equal, and simply leave this empty. So if our decal material is not empty, we are going to spawn a decal. So from the false pin, connect it back up to the create dynamic material instance, and also make sure you connect up the decal material again to this node if you disconnected it, otherwise nothing will spawn. So if you don't do this and you return an empty result over here, you will get errors. So make sure you add this little branch in here. So right now we are going to continue from the bind event to on particle collide, drag off here and add a custom event. Now let's name this something like Bloodsplatter collide. And we are going to spawn our blood decals from here. So basically we can copy all of this stuff from the create dynamic material instance. Just select all of this and copy and paste it over here. Connect up the execution like this. For the parent material you want to select your Bloodsplatter decal material, this one. Now for the integer in range on the scalar parameter node, we are going to set it to from 0 to 11. So again, referring to our 0 to 11 image index over here. We can crank up the size a little bit, so let's say in between 20 and 40. And I don't think we really need to do anything else. On a little side note, you do want to destroy the owner after fate, so you want to set this to true. And you probably also want to do that for the other bullet hole decals we added in the previous video. I screwed up a little bit over there, but you can set it to true and nothing bad will happen. So make sure you do that as well. For the spawn decal at location, we need to connect up the location to the input pin over here for the custom event, and we can connect up the normal to the rotation. So drag off the normal, plug it in, and it will convert it into a rotator for us. And I think we should be good to go right now. If I connected up all the pins. Yeah, I think I did. So let's compile this. And in our level, let's quickly add a new cube and give it our flash material. So duplicate the cube, and in the assets panel for the physical material, set this one to flash. And let's see what happens if we shoot at it. So play this. And get ourselves a weapon. And as you can see, if we shoot at this surface, we are spawning blood splatter, and as soon as the blood splatters hit the ground, they will spawn a decal. And if we shoot one of the other surfaces, still our bullet hole decals are appearing. So everything seems to be working over here. That's pretty nice. Thank you, DeanAshford. There's one little thing we are going to look into the next video, and that's our trace channels. And I can show you why. So if I go to my Paragon Murdoch folder right now and I go to my character materials, I can set these materials to be of our physical material flash. So if we shoot at this stuff, our blood splatter effects will spawn. However, we are going to run an issue. Let me show you. So for the Murdoch body material, I set the physical material to flash. I'm going to save and close it down, but this takes a little bit because it's compiling shaders as well. Thank you. Now let's set the arms to the flash material as well. Save and close it down again. Come on, you can do it. Thank you. And let me go back to my character blueprint. And for the bullet trace, let me set the traces to visible so you can see what's happening. So for my bullet trace, the multi-line trace by channel, I'm going to set this to drop for duration. And we need to check this in multiplayer, of course. So set this to 2 players. So I have something to shoot at. And both of my screens spawn on my other monitors. That's awesome. So if I pick up a weapon right now and I start shooting at the other player, you can see I'm shooting right through him. My bullet traces aren't even hitting him. There's no little square over here, so something is wrong. If I go back to my character again, you can see there's trace channels over here, and you need to change the God damn it! You need to change the trace channel to camera. You don't really need to say that too fast. So if you change this to camera, and make sure you change the other trace channel to camera as well, otherwise you will get an aim offset, otherwise your aim will be off. And if we check it again right now, we are probably able to shoot the other player. So I'm picking up a weapon again, and if I shoot at this guy, you can see the traces are registering right now, but there's no blood spawning. Well, there's one over here, but there should be a lot more. So if I look at this, I'm hitting the capsule component of the character and not the actual mesh. So we really need to make a few changes to our trace channels and the way we set things up. Also right now the trace is blocking, so I won't have any hits behind this. So we need to make sure our traces overlap, and we actually use our multi-line trace channel, which returns an array of hits, so we can use bullet penetration basically. But I'm going to save all of that for the next video. I just wanted to show you real quickly, if I shoot him in the arm, which probably is a bit outside of the capsule, so that's why it works. You can still see the blood spawning, and we have our physical material set up, and things are working over there. So I'm saving the trace channel for the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.